Hello, my name is Destiny Palayo, and I will be going through my essay for Dr. Stefan Campbell's class. The title of my essay is The White Supremacy, Power, and National Identity That Led to the United States Conquering the Philippines. I start off by saying, if I were to be blinded by patriotism for the United States, I would have said that we invaded the Philippines for economic gain. I would have said that the Philippines had enormous amounts of untapped resources, with barbaric people who would be grateful to be ruled over by the United States. However, my eyes are not blinded by patriotism for any country. The truth is that the United States had no valid reason for the violent, cruel, and unjust crimes it committed against the Filipino people. In multiple documents, an overwhelming amount of evidence points to racism as the true motive of the United States. Sadly, unchecked white power was the true reason and cause of the invasion of the Philippines. My first quote is by Benjamin O. Flower from his publication named Some of Dead Sea Fruit of Our War of Subjugation, where he describes water cure, a form of torture. He says, pouring water down his throat until the body is so distended as to cause exquisite suffering. Then in the same article, there is also an account from Corporal O'Brien where he states, she feared the American soldiers, however, worse than the devouring flames. This article aimed to unveil the atrocities and horrific actions carried out by the American soldiers overseas, and it was meant to be revealed to the American citizens. Then in the next report, we see more of the manipulation coming from the American government, but this time towards the Filipino people. In the report of the Philippine Commissions to the President, Volume 1, in a letter from America to the Filipino Islands, they say that they will forbid the use of the Philippine people or islands as an object or means of exploitation. This was a letter only meant to keep the Filipino people at ease with the American military, and to kind of quiet them down from rebellion. Later on, it is revealed that this was not the case at all, and that their real motive of the American people and the American government was in fact to exploit the islands and the people there. Then I chose a few quotes from Henry Cabot Lodge, where he then ties in ideas of national honor and pride for his country, as well as opposing the Monroe Doctrine and the neutrality policy that the U.S. government had in place at the time. He aims to make his entire speech seem very patriarchal, but in fact it is very not patriarchal at all, since he is going against his own government's legislations, laws, and policies, all while being in favor for invading the Philippines for economic gain and just overall exploitation of the people. Then in Albert Bridge defends U.S. imperialism. His speech to the senators, he specifically says, "Senators must remember that we are not dealing with Americans or Europeans." For full context, he then says, "We are dealing with Orientals." Pretty much this is just the blatant racism and dehumanization, alienation that the American people felt towards the Filipino people. And his entire speech was filled with just racism and really dehumanizing language towards the Filipino people. Once again, he was in support of invading the Filipino islands. A few other important quotes that he has are considering the flag to be a holy thing. So throughout his speech, he also ties in ideas of nationality and patriotism. Then in the William Jennings Bryan opposes U.S. occupation of the Philippines. I specifically pulled out the quote where he says that for more than a century, this nation has been a world power. This document is against the invasion of the Philippines and pretty much just defends the fact that we had no reason to invade the Filipino people because we, as a nation, the United States government was already set as a global power at the time. And pretty much in this document, he dismantles every argument for invading the Philippines. Then we have the document by Reverend Charles G. Ames on the anti-imperialist movement. He takes nationality and, racism together in a way that is very interesting and somehow is still very pro-American and very pro-Monroe Doctrine and the legislation in place. One of the quotes that I chose from this document was, "And we are to do it by war. Can we not show the world a more excellent way?" So instead of saying humiliating and verbiage that would degrade the American US government, he pretty much challenges them to find a better way and a more excellent way in talking about different ways of peace, I guess, with the Filipino people, if you could call it that. Let it also be said, though, that his idea for anti-war comes from him not wanting American soldiers to die for this cause. And all of these documents pretty much overlap with each other and intertwine with ideas of nationality, aggression, deceit, manipulation of the US government when dealing with the idea of conquering the Philippines. For example, national identity can be found in Albert Bridges' speech. resources and reasons for overcoming, and the Philippines would be found in almost all of the documents, and there's only a few documents that really highlight anti-war and anti-invading the Philippines. Um, Both of them either carry racism or some form of uplifting of the American ideal and nationality. And yeah, this is how they all intertwine with each other on why America ended up invading the Philippines.